All right, today we are diving deep into a fascinating and frankly high-stakes battle. It's a fight that pits ancient traditions against modern-day business. This is a story all about knowledge, power, and justice, and it all revolves around one word: biopiracy. So let's get into what this fight for ancient wisdom is all about. This quote, man, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the heart of the problem. We're talking about a mindset that looks at wisdom, knowledge that's been built up over centuries, and sees it as just another raw material, a free-for-all that could be scooped up for corporate research and development. So to really get this, we've got to start with the treasure itself. And we're going to focus on India, which has these vast, incredible systems of knowledge, like Ayurveda and Siddha. You know, this isn't just folklore. We're talking about a living, breathing library of wisdom that's been tested and refined over generations and generations. I mean, just think about that for a second. For literally thousands of years, this knowledge has been the foundation for communities. Everything from medicine to how to farm sustainably, it's been essential for their well-being. But now, in our super-connected world, that very value has put a giant target on its back. And that brings us right to this central conflict of our story, this idea of a great knowledge heist. This is where that term biopiracy really comes into play. And yeah, it sounds dramatic, but as you're about to see, it's a pretty accurate description of what's been going on. So what is biopiracy exactly? Well, at its core, it's the theft of two things: biological resources, like a specific plant, and the traditional wisdom about how to use that plant. But the key words here, the things that make it piracy, are that it's done without permission and without any fair compensation going back to the community that held that knowledge in the first place. And this heist, it usually follows a pretty clear four-step playbook. First, a company identifies a useful plant and the local knowledge about it. Second, they appropriate it. They just take it. Third, they privatize it, usually by slapping a patent on it, claiming it as their own invention. And finally, they commercialize it, turning it into a product they can sell, sometimes even selling it back to the very people it came from. But here's where the story takes a turn. People didn't just sit back and let this happen. We're going to look at two huge David versus Goliath-style battles where India decided it was time to fight back. Now, check out this timeline. What's really striking here is the sheer length of these fights. A patent on the neem tree was granted in 1994. It took until 2005, a full decade of legal battles, to finally get it revoked. These were not quick wins. They were long, drawn-out, exhausting struggles. And this table, it just lays out how absurd these patent claims really were. The patent on the neem tree was for using its oil to control fungus on plants. Well, that's been common knowledge in India for over 2,000 years. And the turmeric patent? It was for using turmeric powder on wounds, something that's basically a household first aid trick there. In both cases, India won by proving, hey, this isn't a new invention, this is our ancient knowledge. So these victories were a huge deal. They sent a powerful message across the globe. They basically drew a line in the sand and said, this traditional knowledge is not a free-for-all. It has history, it has value, and it has to be respected. But you know, winning a couple of major battles doesn't mean the war is over. Not at all. The fight has just changed. The front lines today are way more complex, and the challenges are a lot more subtle than just fighting one specific bad patent.
Which leads us to this really important question, right? If India proved its point so clearly with neem and turmeric, why is biopiracy still such a big problem? Well, the answer lies in all the systemic issues that are still there.
The first huge challenge is ownership. See, those big wins were defensive. They were about stopping someone else from claiming something. What's missing is a system that gives communities the offensive right to proactively control their knowledge, to license it on their own terms. Right now, they're always playing defense. Next up, you have the problem of unwritten rules. So much of this traditional wisdom is passed down orally, from one generation to the next. It's not in a published book or a database. And in a legal system that's all about written proof, that makes this oral knowledge incredibly vulnerable. And okay, let's say a company does want to make a deal. You run into the fairness equation. You have a small, local community trying to negotiate with a massive multinational corporation and its army of lawyers. That power imbalance is just enormous, and it makes striking a truly fair deal almost impossible. On top of all that, there's a massive loophole in international patent law. A lot of countries don't actually require companies to say where they got the biological material or the traditional knowledge. If you don't have to disclose the source, it's incredibly easy to hide the fact that biopiracy happened at all. And finally, and this is so critical, it's about empowering the guardians of this knowledge. Many local communities simply don't know the global value of what they hold, and they're often unaware of what legal rights they even have. So building that awareness and capacity from the ground up is absolutely essential.
So with all these pretty daunting challenges, what does the road ahead look like? Well, the focus is now starting to shift. It's moving away from fighting individual patents and toward trying to fix the broken system itself.
The path forward is really a two-front battle. First, countries need to strengthen the rights of these communities within their own borders, giving them real control. And at the same time, they've got to keep pushing for a fairer international system, one that demands transparency and real benefit sharing from everyone. And so that leaves us with this huge lingering question. How do we build a world that can protect this invaluable ancient wisdom while still encouraging modern innovation? Finding that balance, well, it's not just about patents and plants. It's one of the biggest ethical challenges we face today.